an interview with Reverend N.H. Smith for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at Miles College, July 26, 1995. Reverend Smith, I want to thank you for taking your time out to come and sit with us today.
My pleasure.
I want to start just by asking some general questions about background. What part of the state were your parents from?
Well, my father was from Monroe County, and my mother was from Sumter County.
And you were born
in
where?
Brewton, Alabama, which is in the southern part of the state.
Right. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
3 sisters and 1 brother.
3 sisters. And where did you fit in?
I'm the third child.
Third child. Tell me just a bit about your parents. What about their education and their occupation?
Well, my father told me that he went to Selma University when he became a man. The schooling that he had up until that point was 6th grade, and then he went to Selma University in 1918, I think it was, and stayed until he graduated from high school. And, you know, that was a great achievement in those days.
Right. And he was a minister.
Yes.
Yes.
And my mother went to Mary Home Seminary in West Point, Mississippi. Maybe that name has been changed, maybe some. Yeah. But Mary Home in West Point, Mississippi. So she graduated from junior college there. Well, she expressed many times that when she went to Monroeville to teach, and perhaps school was, yes, where my father was principal, that, you know, that people used to run up to her and say, "Oh, Miss Smith, what you going to do with all of that education?" Because most of the teachers in those days, you know, they had not gone that far in college. And to finish high school, you know, it was equivalent maybe to master's today.
Right.
I think the curriculum was better, and I think they were very educated.
So as a young person growing up, you were, in fact, your parents being educated individuals and really being upstanding citizens in the community, that sort of laid foundation for you. Then what about your education?
Well, I've never gone to public school. Well, there was a school in Monroeville called the Bethlehem Industrial Academy, which was owned by the association.
What association?
Bethlehem Association Baptist. I think at one time it was called the Colored Bethlehem District Association.
I see.
My community and, well, this association, that district and all, they were quite interested in education. It was something that they promoted. And I am told that at some point, percentage-wise, you had maybe the highest number of college people from that area in the black community, percentage-wise.
Right. And this is in Brewton?
No.
Okay.
See, my father was called to a church, the Morning Star Church in Monroeville, Alabama. At the time of my birth, he was the principal of a school in Brewton, Alabama, called the Evergreen District School. So I was born there. And then the following year, we moved to Monroeville, which was his home county.
And how long did you live in Monroeville?
I left there when I was 16.
Okay.
And I went to Selma University. Selma University at that time, you could begin in kindergarten and go through your Bachelor of Divinities program there. So I went there in the 11th grade. So I finished high school and college
at Selma University.
At Selma University.
Okay. What do you remember about those days in terms of just your schooling, the way that you laying foundation at Selma University as a high school and a college student?
Well, one of the things, and I've reflected on this many times, chapel was mandatory. The second period of every day, we went to chapel. And they would have some accomplished people from time to time who would come in. And perhaps the most memorable one was Dr. Ralph Mark Gilbert from Savannah, Georgia, whose father at one time was president of Selma University. And he was a tremendous mind. He had involved himself a great deal in drama, and he pastored the First African Baptist Church in Savannah, Georgia. And that church, it has always been arguable whether it was the oldest black church and this kind of thing. But I remember him and some other guys, accomplished men, who would come in from time to time. The Literary Society met every Tuesday. They had Baptist Training Union every Wednesday during the chapel hour. You had many things going on at that school that would give you some exposure to the arts and the sciences. Everybody who graduated from high school had to be in a Shakespearean play. It was a rich experience, and fortunately or unfortunately, many of us, maybe in this state, who had the experience of attending, maybe we don't recognize the richness of that institution. If not now, at least at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. You're being a high school student, really on a college campus, per se. I remember when I went from elementary school to high school, we always looked forward to going up the hill to the high school.
Yeah.
How was that transition from your high school experiences then to Selma University, although you are still at the same place?
Well, with the exposure to people who are already in college, I guess that enhanced the whole situation. It was just one big campus. However, it was very strict. Boys were allowed to talk to the girls 4 times a month. They would give you first and third Saturdays in the afternoon. They would give you a few minutes after Lot Carey Missionary Society met on the second Sunday in each month. And then you would have a social once a month at night in the chapel. So, I mean, you could just sit and talk to your girlfriend.
I mean, there were no dorms, cooperative dorms?
No, you could go to the dorm on first and third Saturday afternoons. I don't know, maybe they would allow you an hour. But, you know, we found a way to talk to the girls.
Right. Well, what did you do after Selma University?
Well, while I was at Selma, I started preaching. And that same year, I had served a brief period in Mobile. Then the February of '49, I was asked to serve as an assistant in Clanton, Alabama. And that was in '49. And then maybe before '49 was out, or sometime in '50, I was called to the Tabernacle Baptist Church in my home county, in Beatrice, Alabama. I stayed in Clanton until 1953. I met my wife in Clanton, and we got married in 1951. Well, the Sunday I announced that I was going to get married, the pastor of the church announced that he was retiring, and the church called me as full pastor, all in the same Sunday. So I stayed there, and I left Beatrice going to the Shiloh Church in Montevallo. So at that point, I had two churches, Union Church in Clinton and the Shiloh Church in Montevallo.
How would you handle the two churches?
Well, they were on different Sundays.
Okay. First and third, and second and fourth.
Yeah. And then in 1953, I was called to Birmingham. So I've been in Birmingham ever since.
Since 1953.
Yeah.
When you arrived in Birmingham in '53, where did you live? What part of town?
Well, I lived with one of the deacons who that same year started preaching, Reverend George Harris. And I must have lived at his house for 8 months until we got a parsonage built. And then I moved in the parsonage.
Were you
on First Street, south.
Was that at New Pilgrim?
Yes.
What was Birmingham like? What was it like coming from Montevallo to Birmingham, and your experiences in other smaller towns?
Well, Birmingham was a large city. But you had a lot of country people in a large city.
Right. You're having a lot of migration from the rural to the urban at the time, right?
Simply because of, jobs and this kind of thing. It was a tremendous challenge. And I guess a great deal of inspiration came, as well as I would see him as my closest mentor in that time was Reverend Charles H. Parker, pastor of 32nd Street Church here in the city. I met him when I first went to Selma because he pastored the West Trinity Church in Selma. So, he was quite helpful, He suggested that, if you're going to really lead people, you've got to have a strong backbone. You've got to be willing to make decisions and not worry about who might become angry or whatever. So, and even within my own congregation, there were those who would say, now, chairman of our deacons said to me, Charlie Moody, he says, we want a pastor, and we want a strong pastor. And I was only 22 years old.
22 years old.
Yeah.
Coming to the city to lead a congregation.
Yeah.
In 1953, of course, Birmingham was a rather interesting place.
Yeah.
1954, the Brown versus Board of Education decision takes place. The NACP is operating in the state. Did you get involved immediately with NACP or with any organizations that was community-based outside of your church?
Not really. I came in, I was trying to get established. It was during this period, however, not long after that the NAACP was outlawed,
right,
which gave birth
to
the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights.
But just prior to that, the Montgomery bus boycott had taken place.
It started in 55.
Right. And then in 56, the state outlaws the operation of the NAACP, which leads to the birth of the Alabama Christian Movement.
Yeah.
And you were, in fact, a charter member of the movement. Can you just tell me just a bit about how that all transpired?
Well, Reverend Shuttlesworth and I, By the way, he went to Selma University also.
Were you there together at the same time?
Yeah. We didn't talk about, civil rights per se when we were at Selma University. But we came to Birmingham the same year. So, as well as Reverend Norwood, who also went to Selma University. Reverend W.J. Davis went to Selma University. So several of the men in the city went to Selma University. Reverend J. Sowery went to Selma University. Many guys. I remember we went to Hot Springs together, our midwinter meeting of the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated.
Hot Springs, Georgia?
Yeah, Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Arkansas.
So I told Fred, I said, come on, ride with me. Well, I talked him into it. So we went, and, we talked a lot about conditions and this kind of thing. And
What kind of conditions existed at this
well,
time?
Birmingham was a hard town. I've expressed it sometimes. That Birmingham was sort of like what they worked with. It was hard like steel and dirty like coal. Rigid segregation. Mr. Connor was sort of the man. And, you're limited in your movements. One white policeman could speak, in most instances, to a crowd of 25, 30 blacks. And, oh, you boys move off the corner, something like that. And they would more than likely move. But now it would take 25 of them to make two of us move. It's an interesting scenario when you think about it. You reflect on it. There were certain elevators that you could not ride. You had designated elevators for black people to ride. However, white people could ride on all of them, but you couldn't ride on all of them. When you look at a whole lot of things, it's so silly.
Yeah, so now you have these two young ministers new to the city who's headed to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and you're discussing this kind of information.
We talked about it because I remember, and Fred has quoted that we were maybe coming down the mountain over there, and I think I said to Fred, I said, white people are always talking about our way of life, our way of life. And I remember saying, hell, we are here too, this kind of thing. So he has expressed, he's, said that many times. But, this is the way we felt. I was not, I guess my upbringing made me interested in trying to do something about the conditions of the race, but I wouldn't call myself any kind of pioneer in the sense of being aggressively involved to be a leader of anything like that. We talked about it. We worked together. We shared ideas on whatever manifesto that we came up with, and we set this mass meeting. But you need to keep in mind that was a Jefferson County Betterment Association before
the Alabama Christian movement.
With Dr. E.W. Williams in Fairfield, I think, was elected president. But nothing was being done.
Right. Was this simply an organization?
Well, it was sort of patterned after the MIA.
Okay. And the MIA was?
It was the organization in Montgomery. And
that led the bus boycott.
Yeah. But, nothing was being done. And, this is why, this is partly the reason, I would say, the Alabama Christian movement was started because nothing was really going on.
I sort of distracted you when you were talking about you and Fred headed to Hot Springs. What was the trip to Hot Springs about?
It was the midwinter meeting of the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated.
Okay, did that meeting have any impact upon what the discussion that you guys were having on the way up?
No.
Was there any organizational efforts done during that meeting?
No.
Okay.
No. You know, when I think about, you know, you would go like from here to Tuscaloosa and out through Columbus, Mississippi, and across the state, really, into Arkansas. And, you know, you really, so much of the experiences of just making the trip. You know, you couldn't stop at restaurants and all. You had to be extremely careful in buying your gasoline and this kind of thing. You know, it was a...
Did you ever encounter any difficulties in traveling between Birmingham and other places in the South?
Well, not in the sense of, you know, I've been denied the use of restrooms, even after, and then there have been times when they were putting in gas, and I would say, "Where's your restroom?" And they would say, "We don't have one for colored people," they would say, because the word black had not necessarily come into vogue. So many times I said, "Well, that's okay. Stop the gas right there," and I would pay him for whatever gas that he'd put in and gone somewhere else.
What do you mean you wouldn't buy anything?
I wouldn't let him fill up my tank.
Okay. But when you were going someplace else, where would that someplace else be?
Well, you know, anywhere across the South.
Okay.
Particularly across the South, you know.
But if you couldn't use the facilities...
You know, that became a strategy then. You know, if, you know, we'd find out, do you have a restroom? And if they didn't have a restroom, you're just going somewhere else.
Now, in '56, when the actual movement had started, when the organization of the movement as a result of the NAACP being outlawed, what was your role?
Well, I served as secretary. I was elected secretary of the Alabama Christian Movement.
Tell me something about just those initial meetings.
Well, during that period of time, tensions were high. It was that same year, Arthurine Lucy situation. It was that same year that the Clinton, Tennessee school thing was going on, that same year. I think it was that same year. Well, I remember John Temple Graves, who was a columnist for the Birmingham Post-Herald. The morning after this must have been June 6, 1956. In his column, I think, he said something about no time for sergeants. Reverend Shuttleworth and myself were seen as sergeants, and the other men who had been elected head of the Jefferson County Betterment Association, they were seen as more like generals.
Was that because they were older?
This is the way at least we interpreted it.
So were there ever any conflicts in between the two groups?
Well, not necessarily conflicts. Many of us were castigated the following day after we organized, because some of the people present in the organization were members of the Baptist Ministers Conference. And Reverend J.L. Ware was the president of the conference. And back in the days of the bombings in Birmingham, he had been a voice to speak out against that. But he was not chosen in this setting.
What were your first efforts as an organization after the movement started? What were you attempting to do?
The buses, the schools,
police, the hiring of police, is that?
I think that was one of the items, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to go back and look in the record.
Right.
Because there were so many things, you know, the airport. I don't know, that might have been my case, I don't know.
Right.
Because, you know, different ones.
Yeah.
But you had buses, you had the schools, and I'm trying to think, wasn't that in 1957?
57 was when Shuttlesworth attempted to...
In Reverend Pfeiffer.
Right. At Phillips High School.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
and was attacked.
Yeah.
Yes. Were you...
And then in 1958, the buses.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So really, usually when we look at the Birmingham story, we talk about buses, we're talking about schools.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, we'll be talking about the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think during somewhere along in there, they must have closed the parks.
They closed the parks in probably 60 or 61, I believe.
Okay, all right.
Now, you're being the secretary of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
That meant that you were at all of the mass meetings.
Unless I was out of town preaching, something like that.
Tell me, I've asked people this question over and over again. What was a mass meeting like? Can you just describe what it was like?
A mass meeting was sort of like church. You know, we sang, we prayed, we received the latest word on what's happening, not only in the community, but across the state, across the nation. We gave money. We kept hope alive. And, you know, after so long, the police department started sending policemen to our meetings.
Okay.
And at first we resented it. And maybe we resented it all the while, but after a while, so what? You know.
You were given a nickname. You were said to be called you Fireball.
Yeah, but that didn't have anything to do with the movement.
It had nothing to do with the movement.
No. Deacon Richmond Davis, who had a radio program on Sunday mornings, I preached at St. Peter Primitive Baptist Church, where his membership was in Bessemer. Dr. W.A. Clark was the pastor. So he invited me out to preach. It was a 10-night meeting. So the Sunday between the weeks, on his radio show, he said, you got to come to the revival this week, said Reverend H. Smith Jr., pastor of New Pilgrim Baptist Church, is preaching, said, and he's a fireball. That's how that came. And that was before the movement started here. Okay. And people just never forgot that this was his expression.
Right.
Yeah.
You had some relationship with Vernon Johns.
Yeah.
What was that relationship?
Well...
And tell me, who was Vernon Johns?
Vernon Johns was the most brilliant man, I guess, one of the most brilliant men that I've ever met. He thought about things seemingly that other people never thought about. And we put together, he shared with me an idea. And I agreed to it. And we put together a magazine called The Second Century of Freedom, a journal of goals.
You were co-authors of that?
Well, yeah.
Was
I
this,
can't.
was this in Montgomery that you meet him?
No. He would come here.
Okay.
That was after you'd left Montgomery. He'd come preach at New Pilgrim Church. And we would talk. And he had an unusual respect for me. And he finally told me why I would differ with him. And this, made him really interested in what my ideas were.
He has a very strong personality.
Oh,
right?
yes. I have one or two copies of the first issue of the magazine. I don't have a copy of the second one.
Is that right?
I don't know what happened to it, but the first one I do have.
That'd be interesting seeing that. Yes. So, how long did that relationship last? And
Well, let me see. I'm trying to see when we.
how did you meet him? Because now he was sort of the person in Montgomery
Yeah.
prior to the bus boycott. Is that right?
I'm trying to see when I met him. I don't really know. I know maybe in the late 50s. I had an opportunity to meet him. And we struck up a friendship. He stayed at my house many times. There was a member in our church who did some typing for him. I remember, I don't know, one of the great sermons of his was What to Do with Life. Part of that sermon might have been written at my house. He did it at Atlanta University commencement. One of those years, What to Do with Life. Accept it, affirm it, immortalize it. He was a tremendous force. He was the first black preacher to have a sermon printed in a publication called Best Sermons. Transfigured Moments was the title of the message. And maybe that happened in 1923. Yeah.
1923?
I think.
Is that
I think that is the year.
Okay. Yeah. I know that you were involved in a lot of the demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
Can you remember the first time you were involved in a demonstration and how you felt about demonstrating at that point?
Well, demonstrations were necessary too in those days, but for some people it was a great deal of fun. For me, it was serious business. Going to jail was no fun for me.
Do you remember the first time you went to jail?
Yeah.
What were the circumstances?
I was arrested on 6th Avenue North. Reverend Porter, Reverend King, A.D. King, Reverend Fisher. I was trying to think of the minister's name, who pastored church in Ansel, the AME Zion Church, I think. We were arrested on.
So this is then the first time that you were arrested. This picture then it's the picture that is sent all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Where the three of you are arrested, and in fact, isn't that the monument that's in the park now,
Yes.
depicting that particular?
I don't know what
arrest?
happened in your meeting where they decided to make it generic. But I said to somebody said to me that history is not generic.
What do you mean now? Something happened in a meeting?
Apparently, it appears that something was resented about our.
Now, wait, let me, just for the purpose of the people who are not familiar with what you're suggesting.
Okay.
You sent the march where the three of you were arrested, you were kneeling. This picture was taken. As a result of that picture went all over the world, became a very famous photograph.
Yeah.
The mayor, just prior to the development of the refurbishment of Kelly Ingram Park, wanted that particular picture placed in statue in the park, and it is there. But you say that it's generic. So
That's what we were told.
What makes it generic? Aren't you and Reverend King and Reverend Porter depicted in that?
But it's supposed to be representative. I don't think our names are even mentioned there.
But aren't your likeness there?
I have to go back and look at it because they sent me my head.
Wait.
Your pastor has the original sculpture. They sent him that.
His head.
Yeah.
And they sent you your head.
Yeah.
So
and they were making the drawing, the other sculpture out here, generic.
Meaning that it represented everybody. So then, in other words, it's not historically accurate.
No.
Why was that done?
I don't know. I don't know more than the rumor mills and this kind of thing, but
we do know that in fact did depict the three of you. You should really be there. Your head should not be in your office. It should be on your body in Kelly Ingram Park.
That's right.
Okay. That then being the first time that you were arrested,
Yeah.
How long did you remain in jail?
Oh, I guess maybe 36 hours.
What do you remember?
It was exciting at first.
Why was it exciting at first?
Well, everybody was caught up in the moment. The eyes of the whole world were on Birmingham. This was Palm Sunday, 1963. I had not been arrested before. I avoided being arrested.
Why did you decide that this time that you would be arrested?
Well, it was something that we talked about. A.D. and I would talk about it. From Porter and I would talk about it, and we said, okay, we're going to do it. And we did.
So you actually led a contingent. So was everyone arrested, or was just...
Everybody with our group. Miss Katie Jefferson was in our group. Miss Pinky Franklin was in our group. I think some of them, Deacon Givner's children was deacon in our church. They were part of this group.
What were the conditions like in jail after you were
Well, it's clean. It was clean.
How was the food?
Well, compared to...
Compared to Mama's cooking.
Oh, yeah. Well, they give you plenty of Bama jelly. That's one thing you had plenty of. They would get you up like 3 o'clock in the morning, see to it that the place was disinfect. They would disinfect the place. It was rather interesting. And then after a while, you can't leave that, I guess, claustrophobia would start working on you. And so somebody was there at the jail and asked for me. So I just told him, I said, well, although it was supposed to have worked out differently, I just told somebody to tell one of my members come get me out. Yeah.
So did you leave before John Porter?
Yes.
And you left Porter in, how did he feel?
I think King, I think AD left before we did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
He went on to the mass meeting. There was a big joke about it. That I think Dr. King was telling everybody about these 3 ministers were over there in jail and this kind of thing. And AD walked in the mass meeting. Because, you know, most people who went to jail committed themselves to stay 5 days.
were you arrested at any other, on any
The
other
following
occasions?
Sunday from Thurgood Church.
Okay.
That was Easter Sunday. They arrested us.
Right. So that's the Sunday
Same.
he was arrested, right?
Well,
He was
was
arrested the Friday.
Good Friday. So the same 3. And I think maybe Reverend, what's his name, Reverend Lindsay, who pastored Thurgood Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of the way that the demonstrations sort of were acted out, we know that Bull Connor played a prominent role, some say even in the success of the movement, because of the ways in which he responded to the demonstrations.
I would say so.
Yeah, would you sort
Yeah,
of elaborate
it
on
was,
that?
I think his attitude made us more determined, whereas the chief of police in Albany, Georgia, was much more, you know, he would just arrest everybody. And Albany had they had the largest number of arrests up until the time of Birmingham, maybe 1,600, 2,000. But he would just arrest them. Well, when we got here, the Sunday that we went on Palm Sunday, I remembered Bull Connor was directing everything. And I remember him, you know, crying out, you know, Dad Smith. Well, see, he had not been able to, I hadn't been arrested before that time.
But he knew you.
Yeah, because all of the, you know, he knew that I was, you know, a part of everything. He'd arrested Pfeiffer, he'd arrested Reverend Shuttleworth, he'd arrested several people.
He arrested all of the officers probably. with the
Well,
exception
I don't know
of-
whether, no, I don't think all of the officers, but like the bus riders. I think that happened in 1958.
Right.
They were arrested. And I think there was something to do with an appeal once where Reverend Shuttleworth and Reverend Pfeiffer had to stay in jail maybe 35 days. But anyway,
You had made a conscious decision, though, that, or the movement had made a conscious decision that you would not be arrested
No,
at that
no.
particular time.
no. Dr. King had always said, an individual, you know, there were some people who would try to make you feel ashamed if you had not gone to jail. It was sort of a badge.
Badge of honor.
Yeah. But he said, no, I don't want anybody to go to jail unless they make up their minds to go to jail. So, by and large, I made up my own mind to go to jail.
During those days of planning, what was the typical day like during, say, between April and May of 1963, planning for this confrontation?
Well, you know, we met in room 30
At
A.G. Gaston's motel. Well, you know, a matter of strategizing. We still would go. Well, I remember during that period, sometimes you're talking about you may have 4 churches in the city with a mass meeting going at the same time. And Dr. King would have to go, you know, to all of these. And then we would ask for more people, just like calling for sinners to come to the Lord, to get ready to go to jail. And that were those who came forward. And those who came forward, they were taken, you know, into a room and they would talk about nonviolence. If you got a knife, you got to give that up. And there were those who said they could not afford to be arrested because they weren't nonviolent. And if the man would rough them up, you know.
In late April, early May, there were times when there were not really a lot of people involved. I mean,
Well, it built up. See, we started, must have been April 3rd,
right.
1963. And for 6 weeks or more.
And,
We had children crying to go to jail.
right. But prior to using the children, or getting the children involved, there was somewhat of a lull. There was some concern about not having enough people, and then Bevel and Young and Dorothy Cotton and others talked about, you know, why not utilize children? Because as you said, children were, you know, they were ranting and raving to get involved.
Yeah.
And then they started to go out to the
Yeah,
schools.
well, during this period, along with Andrew Young and I forgot now who else, we would meet at the Church of the Advent on 20th Street in a kind of negotiating session. See, all of the negotiation did not take place at John Drew's house. Some took place at the Church of the Advent. I was trying to think of his name. Who headed Birmingham Realty Company? What was his name?
Sid Smile.
Yes. Because I know we met there once and he used the term, we're not going to become your social secretary or something like that. I think the Bishop George Murray, I think he was, maybe Bishop Carpenter, you know, Episcopal bishops. But Andrew, you know, because I remember Andrew and I were talking one day. And I said this to Andrew, and I meant it. I got the feeling some days that some people had no problem if the demonstrations went on forever. It was fun to them, to a lot of people.
Were these people that were closely associated with King, or
I mean, people
general
who
people in
who
the,
came
in
to the
community?
movement. I mean, you know, it was fun, you know, for them. And then, you know, they started talking about maybe branching out. I think some people did, you know, seek to integrate churches. And I have met some white people who said they were a part of a contingent group to see to it that
those churches.
blacks did not.
Were you ever a part of any of those contingents that went to white churches?
No.
What's your most vivid memory of that particular period of the struggle?
Well, I guess, well, there were so many, but I guess it was a night that they bombed Reverend King's home in Ensley and an A.G. Gasson motel, and how we stayed up all night long,
What happened with that?
trying to keep people from rioting anymore. It was on a Saturday night, and there was, I think, Wyatt Walker, his wife, the Woods brothers, Bernard Lee, A.D. King, because we heard the bomb go off at the motel.
Where were you when both bombs went off? Where were you when the bomb went off?
When the bomb went off at A.D.'s house, I was having something to eat at Gaston Restaurant.
Okay.
So somebody said they just bombed Reverend King's house. So immediately I went to his house. And when I got out there was an angry crowd of black folk. Fire truck was there and policemen and all. Then while standing, looking, we heard the bomb go off. And somebody immediately said it was the motel. So then we come back to the motel. And when we get back to the motel, all hell had broken loose. Oh,
What was the scene like?
cars were overturned. Some cabs, I think, were burning. So we sought to quiet them down. The troopers were basically stationed, I think, on 17th Street, I think. And they didn't join the fray until after we had quieted them down, because I remember Mr. Lingo himself, when we got everybody sort of quiet and we were coming, I was coming back up 15th Street back to the motel. I remember him grabbing me. I had on a sports shirt. And he grabbed me and stuck a carbine on my neck, and he came out with this, what is it,
Expletive.
yeah, this expletive. And he blew my head off. And that was a Birmingham policeman who sought arrest. I don't know who he was. He just said, these men have been out here all night rescuing us, because at one point there was a house on 15th Street that was burning, and we made a wall of our bodies, joined hands, that the fire truck could get in, because they didn't let anybody in that little, what is that little tank? That tank only would set people off. And a lot of times, you know,
This is the tank that Bull Connor rode in.
Yeah. So we made walls of our bodies so that the fire truck could get in. I remember Captain Haley was struck that night with a brick.
This is
Captain Lay was out there also.
Force.
Yeah. Captain Lay. It was a terrible night.
Was this the worst that you had seen Birmingham during the struggle as far as violence was concerned?
I guess there was equal violence, equal amount of violence on September the 15th.
When 16th Street
Yeah,
was bombed.
because, see, I got hit at when Shores' house was bombed the first time in my leg. And
What do you mean you got hit?
well, I was shot in my leg. And you couldn't tell at first until then you saw the swelling. And when I got to the hospital,
You were at Shores' house?
yeah, we were out there trying to get people quieted down. So when Reverend King's voice, A.D. King, when his voice, sort of what he said, hey man, come on, let's talk to these people. So I went to step up on the car. Well, the policemen were around the car. So I was going to get up on the car and talk. And just as I got ready to get up there, I felt this sting on my leg. And I went to emergency at the university later on the next day. Because I just, it was just bothering. And Dr. Hamilton finally, he couldn't.
Was the bullet lodged in you?
No. It hit, and it chipped the bone, and
But it didn't lodge. It
No.
No.
So finally, the following day, Dr. Hamilton, they took me to the family. And it was really sore then. He had to irrigate it, and you couldn't deaden around the place because I just had to grin and bear it at the time.
So each time there was a disturbance, then some of you...
We would always, and even when his house was bombed a few weeks later, I was back up there on crutches.
A.D. King's.
No. Mr. Shores.
Shores, okay.
They bombed his house twice within weeks. And I went up there, and the guy that I rode up there with, when they got to shooting in those trees,
These, who's shooting?
I guess it was a policeman or somebody. And everybody scattered that night. Somebody was killed. This was the second bombing.
Somebody was killed
In that second bombing.
in the bombing, in the house?
No. Who had gathered. See, crowds would always gather.
Right.
And so crowds gathered that night. Well, this fella got out of the car. I said, well, I can't move fast. Maybe I'll stay here. So I was sitting in the car. And then when everybody started running, I could hear those bullets. Everybody started running. Whatever that street is, right down from his house, wherever that street is, the car was headed east. When I heard all of the running, I got down on the floor of the car. And I stayed down for maybe a couple of hours.
A couple of hours?
Yeah.
You mean there was something going on for a couple
Oh,
hours?
yes, man. That hill was covered.
With,
Policemen and people.
was there a physical confrontation between them? The police?
Well, in some instances, but I wasn't on Center Street.
Okay, you were off the street.
I was on the
Side.
on the avenue.
Okay.
And, they just, I guess they had remembered the time before. And because we worked late into the night that night trying to quiet folk down. But they wanted to mess up whatever white, that would, the truck route, I think was what?
78. There's a truck route.
Getting to
that came down
78.
through there. Yes.
And you'd come to the black community, man, they would attack Fruhoff trucks. It was a time, that particular night.
Obviously, there is, you've had a lot of involvement and you have a lot of information to give about the movement. Of course, we won't have time to do all of that today, but I just want to ask you, is there any other single thing that we have not covered that you would like to just add to this tape?
Well, and I'm partly to blame. The Birmingham story has not been told. You've had people to come in, want to talk to people, but to me, the real history of this city during this period cannot be told by somebody interviewing somebody. The real history has to be told by people who lived here, who felt the tensions of the time, someone who knows the meaning of segregation at its worst. Someone who saw the day-to-day situation would be able to connect events and this kind of thing, and to be able to give some in-depth insight into the attitude of people and the kind of people who were really involved. The real heroes of the movement have been totally overlooked. I haven't read anything with any kind of justice, although Taylor Branch, to me, does a fairly good job. But to me, you cannot deal with history in the distance. History has to be sort of like, I guess this thing that Michael Jackson is talking about, his story. And to me, this is the only way for it to be done. I think in the Birmingham situation, you need a group to work on the Birmingham story. Alola Hendricks, Georgia Price, to name some of those who are still with us. James Armstrong, the Woods brothers, to sit down and what one may forget, the other would remember, and so that this story can be told. Because Birmingham, to me, is still a unique place. At that point in time, or when Birmingham started, it was 1871.
Right.
People could come to this place. Two railroads crossed, and coal and steel mills and the line, iron ore, and all this kind of stuff. And people left the country in droves and came to Birmingham. And you didn't have to have brains, mainly bronze. And people, started making this good money. And then it's been in the later years that, some Birmingham started taking on some sophistication, this kind of thing. But it's unique. And someone, a group of persons. To me, no one person. And having been secretary, I just should have kept a day-to-day diary, and I didn't.
Do you have, records that you kept? all the time?
Well, they were talking about getting an injunction against the organization. So
Who was talking about getting an injunction?
the authorities do the same thing with the Alabama Christian Movement.
That's right.
And see, they always want to go after your records. So they came to me, and I don't know where most of the records are.
Did
And if they would come to me, then I could say this truthfully. I guess maybe Reverend Gardner, some of them, have the records of those years. I may have, in some of my papers, I may have some notes.
Well, we're hopeful that this is the beginning of doing exactly what you're suggesting, because what we're doing, talking to people like yourself and others who were involved in getting their parts of the story. And hopefully we'll be able to piece some things together eventually, but we'll need more assistance from you, of course.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking your time out today.
Okay.
I'd like to do it again.
All right. Good.
Okay.
Sweet